everyone. We would like to welcome back Glucotrack, which trades on the NASDAQ under the symbol GCTK. They're a continuous blood glucose monitoring company for patients with diabetes. And they recently announced their preclinical results in early January. Happy to bring back the CEO, Paul Goode. Nice to see you, Paul.
Good to see you too, Hannah.
All right, let's jump right in. So why should investors take notice of Glucotrack now?
Well, good question. We feel that we're poised for growth in valuation. Truthfully, we feel that we're quite a bit undervalued where we are presently today on the market, and as we've had a lot of good news recently over the last, say, 6 to 9 months. The diabetes industry in particular has taken notice and of our technology and our approach, and there's been a lot of positive feedback in that industry. And so we're trying to get the word out more to the broader investment community that there's a lot of opportunity. We expect to hit milestones. We expect to have further positive news coming out to the market throughout 2024. And we hope that by the end of this year we're going to be in a much better place in a valuation perspective than we are now, which provides a good opportunity for investors to jump in now as opposed to later.
Absolutely. So what does make Glucotrack unique in the CGM space, and why will it be successful?
Well, you hit on it in your intro a little bit when you said continuous blood glucose monitoring. Most folks have heard of blood glucose monitoring, where that is the finger stick device, and you get put a drop of blood on a sensor, and that gives you the measurement of your glucose at that moment in time. It is, but considered the default gold standard for the most accurate way to measure your blood glucose, of course, outside of a clinical chemistry lab. And but the problem is it's a static single point measurement in time. Other people may be familiar with CGM, or continuous glucose monitoring, and that is the devices that are wearable and go under your skin and measure your glucose from your fatty tissue under the skin. And that does not measure the blood, it measures the interstitial fluid. So it has a delay. So we are combining the best of both worlds, the blood glucose monitoring gold standard with the continuous glucose monitoring, where you're getting data every several minutes throughout the course of a day, throughout the entire life of the device, to help with your alarms and manage your diabetes. The other area that we feel that really differentiates us is that most of the CGMs on the market today are short-term wearable devices. Depending on which version you get, it's a 7-day or a 10-day or a 15-day sensor. There is one that isn't implantable, like we are, but it only lasts for 6 months. And the value proposition that we're bringing is we'll be bringing a product to market that will last more than 2 years before it would need a replacement. So those two areas, I think, is where we really provide some differentiation for patients with diabetes.
And with those two that you mentioned, how will this impact the lives of patients with diabetes on a day-to-day basis?
That's a good question. Because the solutions that they have right now, primarily the wearable solutions, which covers about 99% of CGMs sold on the market today, they work well. They have some challenges and issues, or some patients have difficulty with them, but overall they're wonderful devices, and we definitely don't plan to supplant those. But there is a burden on patients having to continue to replace them on a regular basis as the sensor wears out at day 7 or day 10 or day 14 or 15. And so they have to order the supplies and get them in. So there's a lot of management by the patient themselves, or of course a parent of a child with diabetes. And what we're offering is effectively a set it and forget it type of solution. Device that's fully implanted and transmits data to your smartphone. No need to have a wearable ever. No need to deal with the irritation of the adhesives or the rashes that it could cause, or the pain of insertion. And for 2 years, you get all the data without having to do all that management. Another area we feel like that's very critical is an emerging area in healthcare for health equity. There are underserved populations who have challenges to be able to get products, delivered to them on a regular basis, or to get to their physician and for regular management, for training of these devices to understand how to use them. And here we can provide a solution for that community where there would be a device that would be implanted once, one doctor visit, and for 2 years, and they would not need to worry about the rest of those logistics associated with appointments and materials and so forth.
How relieving that would be. Paul, talk about how you define success in terms of expected revenues and market share.
Well, put things in context, the CGM market in 2023 finished worldwide at $8.1 billion of revenue. This year, the numbers aren't fully out yet, but through the first 3 quarters and the growth that it was experienced, it looks like they're probably going to hit 9 billion, or very close to 9 billion in annual revenues. Now, we're not, we don't have any, ideas that we're going to be taking all of that market share and converting every single patient out there and fighting the big guys. But there are plenty enough dissatisfied users and ex-users who are so dissatisfied that they quit using, or non-users who have decided they just don't want to use it for a variety of reasons, that in and of itself is quite a large market share. Now, we have an implantable device that we, still need, that effort the patient needs to overcome. Are they willing to have an implantable device or not? Some patients don't mind, some patients do. But when you look at it in aggregate and you see that, you have a growing market, roughly 9 billion in revenues. It's only about 50% penetrated, by the way, worldwide. And so there's even room for more growth. So if we could get, a 10% of that or a 5% of that, we're looking at revenues, in the range of, $500 million to $1 billion annually. And for us, that would be a success, and also would it be a success to bring a solution to those patients who are unhappy or who are not using the CGM technology for a variety of reasons.
And why hasn't anyone else done a long-term implantable CGM?
This is an interesting, history lesson in a way. There was actually been a few companies that started this way back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And actually, I worked at 2 of them. And one of them was Dexcom, which is one of the market leaders in CGM. They started as an implantable continuous glucose monitor. But pretty much, they shifted, and others either went away or shifted to the wearable model. There's a variety of reasons for that, but primarily the big reasons were the implantable technology was not quite enough mature at that point to really support an implantable glucose sensor device. Secondly, the location where they were sensing is under the skin. There are a lot of challenges with sensing under the skin, and that's why we're in the blood. We don't face those challenges. So, and thirdly is the chemistry to get the chemistry to last long enough inside the body, because the chemistry it degrades over time, and that's why no one has really gotten a long-term device more than 6 months. We're confident we can do 2 years. Now, add one last thing to that is when the wearable devices first came out, they were 3-day sensors. They progressively increased over time to become, 5 days and 7 days and 10 and 14 and 15 days. And so there have been increases in chemistry over time that, that we can also leverage that allow us to get out to the beyond 2-year mark.
Max Snyder asks about the cost difference. He sees it's smaller, more comfortable, less maintenance, but what is the cost difference, and does insurance cover it?
So at present, insurance does not cover it. We're still in the clinical development phase, so we don't have FDA approval at this time, and you can't get reimbursement on a product, or at least a new product like this, until the FDA has approved it. So we don't have that yet. That being said, we are doing our homework on what that reimbursement would look like, what the avenues are for that, and which particular reimbursement codes would apply. And the cost difference would likely be a little bit higher than what it is today for the wearable devices. Not dramatically higher. It's amazing, the pricing across those devices. So we don't expect it to be dramatically higher, but it will be higher. That being said, there are economic outcomes, healthcare economic outcomes, that having an implantable device over 24/7 for 2 years will add value, and that would be supported by reimbursement. So we are not expecting to see any significant reimbursement challenges. Moreover, the American Diabetes Association has put out guidelines that so many patients are the clinical guidelines are that type 1 patients and a large section of type 2 patients should be under CGM therapy. So there is the medical community and the reimbursement community is following up with that.
And can you talk about your patents? Carl wants to know how protected you are.
So we do have our patent strategy is we have a very large a patent application that is in process. It should be under the investigation of the U.S. Patent Trademark Office next month, if all goes well. And that will spawn out many sub-patents that are in the works that we're planning right now. So we have a huge IP portfolio that we are building, and we are actually leveraging patent attorney and legal patent resources that have a very deep bench and deep experience in CGM. So we know what is patentable, what we can claim, and what we would how we avoid others that already have some patents in the field.
And last question for you, Paul. What should investors watch for in the upcoming months from Glucotrack?
Essentially, looking at our press releases, we're going to report on the milestones that we've mentioned in previous press releases and filings, SEC filings, and we will be updating on those milestones throughout the year 2024 as we work towards our first in human trial, which we're targeting to happen around the end of the year or early next year, and seeing that progress along the way. Those would be the big things to look for, and we're going to be excited to report on them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this update. We look forward to following you along in your journey.
Many thanks, Anna.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for a great day. We will see you back here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for day 2 of our Super Virtual Investor Conference. Thanks for watching.